This over here is Noctua's brand new air cooler. This is the Noctua NH-D15 G2 or second generation, and you can buy the wrong version. I'm not joking, there's 3 versions and you can make a mistake of not buying the right one for you. This is also the most expensive air cooler in the world, and it took Noctua 10 years to manufacture this. So what exactly has changed and which one is the right one for you? Well, I'm glad you asked. Licensing Windows is cheap and easy with whokeys.com, and if you use the code TN20 you get an extra discount. Complete the purchase, copy the key, and paste it to the activation settings. And you're all done. Also check out their Microsoft Office 19 license and use the same code TN20 for the extra discount. Check out whokeys.com in the video description below. So let me explain the 3 different versions straight away, because then it's easier to understand the rest of the video. So we've got the normal G2, then we've got the LBC, and then we've got the HBC. The LBC means low base convexity, and the HBC means high base convexity. So usually every single cooler, when you look at the base plate of the cooler, I'll show you that in a minute, you've got some heat pipes running to some kind of base plate. Let's say this is the base plate in here. You've got the fan in here blowing the air through. You've got the tower on this side, tower on this side, if that makes sense. Now, this base plate here on every single cooler is slightly convex, which means that it's just a little bit of a, like if you look at this in a microscope, it's got a little bit of a hill. So basically that means that the middle of the cooler right in there will make perfect contact with your CPU's IHS, okay? Integrated heat spreader. So that allows you to have the best contact. Now, what Noctua has done is the normal G2 has a little bit of a convexity on the base plate. The low base convexity here has actually a very, very flat surface, a lot more flatter than the usual one in the middle one, so G2. And then the high base one has a lot more convex base. So this is exaggerated here of the base on both of these, and certain platforms or certain CPUs work better with one or the other. Now, what I would say is the normal G2 what Noctua launched is kind of the best for everything, right? But you can improve your cooling even more with certain platforms with the LBC and HBC. HBC, high base convexity, is for Intel, LGA 1700, and the next one, which is 1817, I think, or whatever the next socket is as well. So this is Intel's socket. LBC is for AM5 and 4 sockets, because those CPUs are much flatter from the top than Intel's one. If you look at the AM4 CPU, that is very, very flat surface in there, and you want very flat heat spreader to make the best contact in there. If you're gonna have too convex of a base, you're not gonna make any or as much contact on the sides, which isn't as good for the cooling. And it's exactly the same on AM5, it's a slightly smaller than AM4, if that makes sense. They're very, very flat. Now, for Intel's LGA 1700, as you can see, the CPU is a completely different shape. It's more of a rectangular rather than a square in there, which means that actually over time, because of the Intel's CPU holding mechanism, ILM, on the motherboard, pushes down on these sides, that will make the CPU bend down from the middle and make a little bit of a cave over time for the CPU. So the CPU will start to be bent. So if you look at it from the side, from this side, from the side, you've got the long in there CPU, okay? But over time, it's actually gonna, so if that is your CPU there, okay, if that makes sense. But then over time, it slightly bends in this way. So that way, if your CPU is bent in like that, it's good to have a cooler HBC that slots into that cave, and you're gonna make just a really nice contact with, so this is exaggerated. So this is your CPU here, exaggerated contact with this in here. So it's the perfect contact what you have in there. Now, the question I have is, what if you have one of those contact frames from Thermalright or Thermal Grizzly that holds the CPU much better, and you've got a perfect, new CPU? Do you still need the HBC, or is the G2 a better option for you because now your CPU is not bending anymore? So because I'm going to be testing this on this platform, and this is the LGA 1700 socket. We've got i7-14700K in there. We're gonna be opening up the HBC. So we've got our accessories and then the cooler, which I guess we'll have to take out like that. Alrighty. As you can see, this cardboard here, reinsert it once you're traveling or if you want to send it back to Noctua or whatever. But we're going to take this off for now. Now, I've got the old NH-D15 in here. And let's take a look how exactly has Noctua changed the cooler in 10 years. So I've put the coolers down right here, but actually from the side angle, you can see that the old cooler is actually a little bit bigger or longer in terms of that way. So the new cooler is smaller, and if it performs better, that's always better. Obviously, one big thing that you can see what has changed is the fans. We're going to take a look at that in a minute. I'll take the fans off in a second, but I'll just want to look around and see exactly what's different. From the side, you can see that the heat sinks are actually slightly different. As you can see, on this side, we've got something cut out. On the new one, we don't have the cut out anymore. You can see that the heatsink also continues a bit further down. I'll show you that in another angle from there, but that's interesting. But it looks like the towers aren't as thick or deep. They're rather longer, but then thicker. Yeah, as you can see, one of the towers here is 5 centimeters exactly. Both of the towers are 5 centimeters, whereas on the new one, they are 4.5 and 5. So one of the towers is slightly skinnier. The back tower is longer, but the front tower is actually skinnier. Now looking from the top, obviously you can see that the heat pipe placements is a little bit different. Here you can see that the old tower is a little bit bigger. And on this angle, you can see that some of the heatsink, as you can see here, it's not got this cut out anymore. It's full on heatsink. And then you've got a bit of extended fins here on the bottom there to extend it even further down what you have over there, which is a great idea actually, to get even more surface of the cooling. But it looks like they're slightly denser than on the previous one. On the top, doesn't look like much has changed. Obviously the heat pipes we have more now, but on the bottom side, that's where we see some big differences now. As you can see, the actual contact plate that makes contact with the CPU has been enlarged. This is probably meant for, you know, our Intel's 11th gen and AM4 CPUs where we had square CPUs and you made most contact, but now our CPU is a lot bigger. The actual IHS is bigger. So now this contact plate is much bigger as well. In terms of heat pipes, previously we had 6, but now we have 8 heat pipes, which is quite impressive. They haven't released the Chromax black version yet for this new cooler, but I can't wait for that. Now, before I actually show you the fans and what's different in fans, they have actually redesigned the fan clips here as well. Because they designed the fans to be as close to the edge of the fan frame as possible, you need the fan clips and the whole construction around the fan to be as solid that even over time, when you're making little pressure like this and the CPU gets hotter, for example, because this is on the heat cooler, this plastic, when it gets soft, it doesn't start bending and suddenly your fan starts to cut some of the outside frame of the fan or something like that. So they have redesigned this. As you can see, it makes contact on this side and on the further back to release the pressure or put the pressure more evenly onto the fan frame to make it make contact with the actual heatsink in there. There you can see it's just on the outside frame, as you can see there. It cuts it from there and then bent in straight away and it holds it in the middle. Whereas here, it's actually from the inside. They've got this funny zigzag kind of construction here and that holds it then from the middle, but it's much more evenly placed pressure on it. The fans come with little paper that you have to take out from there just to keep these fans there and keep them safe in the actual transportation. But one thing that you can see is those fan blades are so close to the edge of the fan frame. Why is that so important? Because that allows the fan to create as much pressure as possible. Look at the difference between the fan around the edge in here, which is probably like 2 millimeters, compared to this one, which is 0.7 millimeters apparently. This is amazing. Now, another thing that I can see here, which I haven't seen a lot of people talk about, is the fan is actually smaller. Now, if you take the measuring tape and look at the inside diameter of the frame, It is literally 14 millimeters, as you can see there. And if you look at the outside frame, it's 15. Okay, so this is not 14 millimeters, 14 centimeters, 140 millimeters. If I look at this fan blade, the inside is actually 13.34 millimeters. So the fan has gone actually smaller. The fan is not 15 anymore. It is actually 14 millimeters. So this is not really the NH-D15. It's probably the NH-D14 more like, because the fans aren't as big as they used to be. So now, if we're outperforming with the new cooler, new fan that's smaller, the old version, we've done a great thing, made the cooler smaller and better. Now, Noctua could have cheated or just gone the easy way and made the fans thicker, that you can see some of the other manufacturers do, but they've kept it the same, 25 millimeters in depth. The fan blade design is very, very different as well, and you're probably going to start now other manufacturers copying this fan design. Firstly, previously we had 7 blades, now we have 9 blades, and the blades are very aggressively curved to scoop up the air a lot better. As you can see, the curve here is much more aggressive, and this fan blade has been made with some special material that's a lot stronger than the previous one, because that even in the sustained load and in the sustained kind of workload after years and years of usage, the fan's not going to be bending or extending of the fan blade because of the central gravity force that wants to pull these fan blades straight and out. They're still going to go very close to the edge of this fan frame and then just push the air out. Noctua has also known of being quiet. Finally, this is one of the first guys who talk about the actual resonance and noise with the fans. When you've got 2 fans making exactly the same RPM, exactly the same noise, the same sound is going to start to kind of make resonance. And this is exactly the same what you see in audio engineering, in concerts and so on. That's why they actually put 2 subwoofers on top of each other in the front row, for example, in big concerts, sometimes actually flip them so that they're backfiring. And then because you have 2 speakers on top of each other, the wavelengths start to kind of go exactly the same way, meaning that the sound will be even bigger than just the 2 separate speakers combined in certain distances. That is also true that if you have speakers at certain length away from each other, they start to cancel each other out, and you don't want the speakers to be too far from each other, because suddenly the wavelengths aren't exactly in line with each other and they start to cancel it out. It's exactly how the noise cancelling with your earphones works. Just some audio engineering tips there. I'm sure that some guys want to actually finish off and tell me a lot more in the comment section below. Please do. Oh yeah, as you can see, the fan name is A14, not A15. So it is a smaller fan than on the previous one. I've got this PC here. I'm not sure if you remember this guy. We built it. I've just taken the GPU off here. We've got another Noctua cooler in here, and we're going to take this one out and make a little bit of a Frankenstein cooling now. It's going to stick out from the side, but that shouldn't matter. So inside the accessory box, we've got some cool things. Thermal paste guard for the AM5 CPUs. So you can put this on top, and when you put thermal paste on, you can probably leave it on the CPU as well. Later on, when you pull it off, your CPU is going to be a bit more cleaner. Here's Noctua's shim washers, NMISW1 for the LGA 1700, optional accessory for improving contact quality and performance on LGA 1700. Intel parts, that's what we need here. Some more Intel parts. I believe we need these as well. These are Intel ones. Instruction manuals. We've got Noctua screwdriver, but this time this is a Torx screwdriver. Same length. I like it. Thermal paste. This is the new NTH2 thermal paste. We've got a Y adapter, so basically splits one header into 2, which we'll have to do in there. Then we've got a low noise adapter, both of these. Noctua sticker and some wipes for cleaning. So these washers, where were they? These washers actually go just between these socket covers there, if you want to do that. But I'm not gonna do that, because most people who run like contact frames or something like that might already have it quite well. I can already see that my CPU is probably a little bit concaved. The way the thermal paste is a little bit more squished from the sides than from the middle. I'm not gonna be using these shims there, but you can do that if you wanted. Okay, so this is basically alcohol wipe there that we can use for the CPU. Okay, very nice and clean. Still uses toilet paper to just dry it out. Oh, I forgot that underneath this little cardboard on this top left corner, there is the back bracket. You take these Intel parts there, so these standoffs. Now bear in mind, there is this, it says here, caution, this side must face the motherboard. So it goes onto the motherboard from the back side this way, not that way, if that makes sense. And then you're gonna take these standoffs and you put them on the outside and then click the black washers in. Again, this triangle, there's two ways it can go, on the inside or on the outside. The outside is LGA 17, the inside is LGA 1200. So in the second packet, you've got black washers, blue washers, and then these nuts in the end there. For LGA 1700, you want to use blue washers, and for 1200, you want to use black washers. So then you take the back plate, put it through the holes. There we go. You're going to have to hold it. Put the blue washers on top, it doesn't matter which way. And then now your other brackets that hold the top on and where you actually screw the heatsink in. There's two ways how you can put them. Obviously, if you put them on the side, bear in mind, you're gonna have to use the second hole on the outside hole. If you put them there, then it's the usual right to left kind of airflow this way. If you put them the other way, you can have a chimney layout as well. But we need this type of layout there. There we go. And then these nuts go on the top. Now the brackets have been installed. And the interesting thing is that this Noctua cooler is not exactly in the center. So if I try to put on the cooler this way, it lines up perfectly. And as you can see, I've got still a little bit of room on this side. And it kind of leans over towards the graphics card where the GPU is on this side. If I try to put it the other way, so if I literally just swap it around, then you can see that my cooler doesn't fit onto the holes anymore because it sticks out too far from the top side, which I guess is good. In certain cases, you have the option whether you want it a bit further this way or a bit further that way. So in my case here, look, here you can see it probably the easiest, that it's leaned not in the middle, but a little bit more this way. So you can put it whichever way. Now, all we have to do is do thermal paste. And what Noctua recommends is a big blob in the middle, a pea size, and then small blobs around the edges, like that. Now, before I put the heatsink down, I actually want to put my Y splitter into the fan header there. Okay, so the Y splitter goes there because it's an ITX motherboard. I'll make it come out from that side. Line up the screw holes. You have to put a bit of pressure on the screw to actually start threading. When it starts threading, just go one side and the other side. Don't screw one side obviously down all the way, but just go backwards, forwards, so it goes down evenly. Put the middle fan in, tighten it down, then take the front fan. Obviously right now, just because I've got lots of stuff on this side of the fan, you can see that this fan goes a lot higher than the previous one. So I might try to have, you know, pull and pull configuration as well, put the fan in the back. But at first, I'll try this first and see how it cools with not even the fan being all the way down. And our Frankenstein cooler is installed. Look at this guy. Oh my word. That's hilarious. Okay, let's turn it on, see what happens. Oh, it's quiet. Oh my word, that is so quiet. That's like instantly what you hear. All the other fans in the PC are just so much louder. I'll put that side back as well. What we should do is just cut that piece out from Fractal and leave it in so you could cover the rest of the PC, but just have a massively intruding. The room temperature, 24.7 degrees in here, which is quite warm. As you can see, everything is set to Intel's default, 253 watts. So we've got 14700K here. Core temperatures, okay, 253, CPU package temperatures there. Let me just extend that a little bit so you can see a bit more. So let's press start and see how good is it. For a second it thermal throttled, but then instantly we're fine. I mean, look at that. core temperature 76 degrees. I mean, this is not like a scientific thing, but look at that. So one core P5 thermal throttle. Let's have a look at P5. It only went 89C, so I'm not sure why it's thermally throttling, but this works so good. I mean, CPU temperature is 92 watts, but come on, we're pulling 253 watts from there. That's very good. Goodness me, I'm liking this janky setup. I mean, guys, do you remember we did the CPU cooler test? This is what, how many runs have we done now? This is 4th run, and we're not thermally throttling. I know this says there that we have been in the beginning, but we actually aren't. We're still pulling 253 watts. Air cooling. This is insane. 5th run. See, when it starts the run, it goes thermally throttling and then stops. I'm not sure why. So I'm going to stop this for a second. That was very, very good. Now, what I want to do is actually put the first fan in the back, see if that makes any other difference, because it's so intruded, like so high up. I'm gonna have to change the fan mounts to the other side. Ow! So that's pull and pull now. I'm gonna press start. Let's see if it's any different. Okay, I'm gonna stop this now. Like, I can feel it pulling air in from this side. 79, 80, past 2, 80 degrees core temperatures. I mean, look at that. That's how good the convexity, high base convexity, is actually making the contact with the CPU so good. If you had the contact frame as well, it's probably even better. But guys, I could do this all day. This is amazing. I mean, there's one thing left to do, which is to max out this and see what happens then. 277, 275 watts, and we're not thermally throttling. Through 270 watts, and we're not thermally throttling. And it's not like, I mean, look, one of the cores is 97 degrees, but the rest of them are high 90s, and this is quite a warm room. Now, thermally throttling, we are, yes, P Core 5 is thermally throttling, but guys, that's impressive cooling. Seriously impressive. To be honest, the best thing, which is very hard to give across in this video, is the noise. This cooler is very, very quiet, and they've really improved the noise of this. Noctua's done a great job. Now, the downside of this is that this costs $150. I personally think that the price is going to go down, and Noctua released it expensive at first because the fanboys is going to pay their fanboy tax a little bit at first. But I think, I don't know this yet, Noctua hasn't told me anything, I think the price is probably going to go down because that is very, very expensive. You can definitely see that this is a high quality cooler, and it will perform many, many years like that. I think it's got 6 years warranty if I'm not mistaken. But this is one of the first coolers that I can see that actually tames Intel's 240, 250 watt load at multiple loads. Yes, we did get like 300 watts or something like that with the Arctic new cooler. That was a budget cooler, actually quite a bit cheaper, I think 3 times cheaper than this one, but that can't sustain the load like this one guy did, and it's impressive how good this cooler really is. Now, what can I say? Noctua, you've done a great job. I can't wait for the Chromax Black version. My question to you is, would you pay $150 for it? And if you do, check out the links in the description below. Bear in mind, don't buy the wrong version of this. Depending on your actual platform, you might want to go with one or the other. Thanks guys for watching. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't subscribed yet. Like the video if you found it helpful, and I'll see you soon. Bye bye.